I'm Dr. Morgan White, and I've done talks and workshops all around the world for almost 28 years. And for 17 of those years, I helped a lot of people that other people did not want to help. So this series we're going to call Brain Truths, because we're talking about vibrational frequency. Everything on this planet, everything in our hearts, our minds, our bodies, everything we see, feel, touch, interact with is energy, vibrating. I wrote about that in my first book. I've written 29 books now. But in my first book, God already showed me that I needed to help everybody understand that everything was energy. And that was the focus. It was called, the subtitle, You Can Live a Joy-Filled Life. So God always gives me, what he gives me is, he gives me very specific title. And what I know from the moment that he gives me a title, then I'm gonna have to do a new book, new workshop, new talk. And I can always tell by the names. So for this series, I get a lot of questions. And a lot of the questions come from Christians at this point. Many people don't know I was the witch's doctor for 28 years. So I wasn't a witch doctor. I was someone born with spiritual gifts, born in church, in a family where literally my mother had a Bible so big in our house that it stood on a pedestal, and she would have to turn the pages for us. And then we were at church a couple days a week. My family is predominantly Baptist and Catholic. So, the Baptists keep like one little eye on the Catholics because they say more than God and Jesus. And I like the fact that I got to go to church every day. So we've been Catholic since the 1500s. We've been Baptist since the 1920s, 1930s. And very strong in that. I always say my aunts are women with golden bossed Bibles, even the ones that have covered for their husbands who are pedophiles. But that had sparked my work. So one thing is, I finished Chinese medicine school in 97. I'm a member of Mensa. I don't say that to help Mensa because they have a lot of problems with racism. How you can have a genius IQ and attach, I found that out as a neuroscientist, how they're able to pull off both. But I became a neuroscientist in 2000 when I finished my other degree. So I literally have 888. I have 8 university degrees and credentials and 8 spiritual gifts. That led me to start a practice, even though God had me ordained in 1996. And then again in this winter of 99. So I think I got all the certifications by January 2000. And as I was doing that, I never asked God, I never questioned God because I was born able to hear his guidance. And then because I was always at church and I loved God and Jesus so much, my mother made sure I knew the words clairvoyant, clairaudient, empath, telepath with psychometry. My series are always as a scientist, but I'm a scientist with all those gifts, with such strong faith that 17 years of almost everywhere you can imagine, there were witches, warlocks, or what have you. I was there because God said, I need you to become a doctor so you can help women come back to me, right? I started with an audience of survivors of incest, ritual abuse, and torture. So those were my first clients. My first clients had the most horrible things happen to them. And some of them had lost their faith because of it. Meaning they had either given up on church because church was being so judgmental. And church, you can try to defend yourself if you want to, because I was raised in church, I still go to church every Sunday. Very loyal to my Bible, but I'm first and foremost loyal to God. And so as I started my ministry, we didn't have to call it a ministry because of those 8 university degrees and credentials. So we wanted to help other nonprofits. So we sat under their umbrella. And what I always taught my clients and students was give, because gratitude fills your heart when you give. And people didn't understand that. But giving is a gift. The ability to give is triggered in your subconscious, right? So the fact that you were able to give someone makes you feel good. Even if you have $11 and you give away 1, you all of a sudden feel more abundant, right? And abundance is a frequency issue. So now I'm, starting to get questions, and I've got 100% for recovery for people whose mom held them down while their dad raped them. My clients don't deserve shame for their stories because they did nothing wrong. What God showed me was that they were meeting very evil people, and that once I had my practice for 3 years, the vocabulary was the same in all the victims. And within my first year, I had 10,000 clients, and they had full recovery. Because what? I always ask God what to do. So I say, okay, Lord, how do I help this person? What do I need to say? I reprogram the brain and I clear the meridians, because the other 8, right? Those 8 university degrees and credentials allow me to be able to take Chinese medicine, combine it with the other modalities, improve it. I actually had someone steal my work, not just once, but a couple times. So someone who already had a school of Chinese medicine decided that they liked my work so much, instead of sending me clients, paying me for it, sending my work to another publisher or their publisher, they decided to steal my work and then get some other doctor who was fake to pretend like they had case studies to support my theory. Well, when you reverse engineering health, healing, religion, you are lowering your vibe. And if you fight them, you are lowering your vibe. So what I found was my clients had 100% because of my vibe, because of my IQ, that I always joke. You will see that I reprogram brains, and jokes are a large part of it, right? So when we talk about certain things, so if it's gossips, we call them orangutans. They're stuck in one place throwing poop, right? That helps you see them correctly. So now you no longer see them as someone who has power over your life. You know they don't have power over your life. They don't even have power over their lives. They're orangutans stuck in a cage. Like, I don't know if you went to the zoo, but that used to be my least favorite animal to stop at, because I grew up going to the zoo, but my mom raised me like an Amazon. Literally, I was raised like Wonder Woman. So who but me would have stopped 59 multimillionaire pedophiles, one at a time, who did not know each other, over the last 20 years, right? Everyone else knew, hey, they bite back, they fight back, they do something called financial attacks. They have people, they pay people to fire you. They have people attack your character. They have threats, right? They try to make you have to focus on surviving life, financially or spiritually, because they are not above hiring people to do black magic, hexes, curses, spells, and various spiritual attacks. Well, I didn't know any of that, but what I did know was the women coming in front of me would kind of shyly let me know they had a magical practice. And I let them know, me too. His name's Jesus. And guess what? Everything that I just did for you, he told me. So what I will do is I'll connect you to him. And then you can still feel powerful enough for whatever led you to go do what you want to do, right? I didn't tell them they have to change their religion. I didn't tell them I wouldn't be their doctor if they didn't. I helped everyone. And so after about 15 years, my godfather had told me something once, because I was just like, Baba. Now I called my godfather Baba because I had a daddy, and he's a Georgia boy, right? So when you have Southern parents, my mom's family literally used to own Kyle, Texas. And we gave the town to itself long ago in history, but they still remember us to this day. There's still proclamations from the state of Texas for Kyle's. Our cemeteries are there. It's It's amazing to know your history. If I print my family tree, it's like an inch to an inch and a half thick, because someone is always keeping track and has from the beginning. And one of my cousins, we have Catherines in our family, but we're always respectful of the Lord. And so our Catherines are Catherines. They are not Cathys. When they're little babies, we will call them kittens, and they allow that because they don't have any power over it. But one thing you do have power over is orangutans. So you don't let them attack you. And when they do, they are showing you what my godfather taught me. Baba said, sometimes people are attacking you because you change their bucket of paint. Now, he knows with my IQ, I'm gonna run that through all time, space, history, sit and talk to God, do some art. It's like I'm a classically trained fine artist, so a lot of times my workshop has art classes or journaling, and it's not the stuff you do with fake healers. It's not the stuff you do with fake life coaches, right? There's a system that life coaches use so that you buy the next thing or you get, right? There's a system. And there's a girl that her business is teaching the system, and then she started training other girls to teach the system. So then you can make anyone with no skills, no faith, no heart, no power, right? And make them into a multi-millionaire life coach, and they've helped no one but themselves. And in truth, my students would tell you, they haven't helped themselves because they lost their vibrational frequency. So I'm starting to get questions from Christians now, and the questions are stuff that my other clients already knew. My clients whose moms didn't believe them, while their dads or grandpas or brothers did the most atrocious things to them. Men are victims of those type of crimes as well, but multimillionaire playboys started coming to me because they wanted me to help them figure out why they had $10 million, $5 million, $50 million, $17 million. I'm not making these things up. They didn't know each other, and this is why I started to be able to explain to people. Sometimes you need to turn your spiritual gifts off, figure out how they're supposed to work, or in my case, teach people how they're supposed to work. Right? They're all supposed to make you a better service to the world, to make the world a better place, so you're not fooled by titles. Got it? So it turns out all pedophiles are demons. Got it? Yeah. I'm not one of those deliverance ministers who talks to demons and say, oh, I used to be a demon, so I know how this. No. I have always stuck with God. When I was a little girl, people came walking up the center aisle of church, crying, and I mean snot-nosed crying, right? Not that we would do, like in my culture, that's not a behavior, that's okay, because you lose your elegance, right? So you don't boo-hoo cry, as we call it. So you don't just cry and make noise and, you know, lose your self-respect. But they were doing that as if God didn't love them no matter what they did. And so that's what I taught all my magical clients. And after about 15 years, I knew they were magical, but I didn't at first. I didn't, you know, sometimes you can tell by what somebody's wearing. Sometimes God would tell me, but God tells me what is needed to help souls feel better. So what I usually keep my gifts at is your highest potential. So I'll see you brighter, more lovely than you ever have been left by the world to see yourself. But I'll teach you how to walk through the world and see the world the way that God created it for you, so that you'll see the world is blessing you every day, all day. You see? The world is literally blessing us every moment of every day. Which is why a team came and said, you know what? This frequency is too much positivity. There's too much love. There's too much goodness. That's what Baba meant my godfather meant when he said, I changed their bucket of paint. So I turned that into a whole class series, which basically says this: when you go somewhere, they might be a bucket of blue paint, they might be a bucket of white paint, which was my first concept, right? But that's hard for people. For me as a classically trained fine artist, I know there's 100 whites. Really, there's 1,000 whites, because if you do anything to white, it is never white again, but it will still look like it to the naked eye. So you can put a drop of pink. You could put a half a drop of yellow. You could put it, right? There are so many combinations. There's probably 100,000 ways you can change a frequency and not quite see it. So most people are inundated with negative qi, okay? So as a Chinese medicine practitioner, I am called things like Qigong master, okay? And that was not me going, oh, I'm going to study Qigong and be Qigong master. That's me sticking with God. That's me covering myself in the blood of Jesus. That's me talking to the Lord 24/7. That's me making sure that I never do anything that would lower my vibe, okay? I guess 18 years ago, I wrote a book called Slapping Demons. And God gave me that title. Remember, if the title's funny like that, it's to reprogram us for a behavior that is making us lose the war we're trying to win. So Slapping Demons was about not slapping demons. See how sneaky that is? As a little neuroscientist, it works like this. You name the book Slapping Demons, then everybody who wants to slap a demon learns why slapping the demon would make you lose. Got it? Because it was like, yeah, they do make you want to slap them. Right? Who never, like, is there anyone in this room? I'm a goody two shoes, right? Literally, dark wizards call me Angel Baby, okay? Got a whole fan club. But I have saved the lives of over 80,000 witches and wizards, or necromancers, or, you know, you name it. I can name 70 types of magic. Because once my clients told me, empathically, I could go, oh my goodness, you feel like. See, empathy is part of empathy. It's a tool where you're supposed to feel the frequency that doesn't belong to the soul standing in front of you, so you can send it love and remove that and adjust it for them. Yeah, so you can heal people every day, all day. But what we started getting instead was vibrational attacks, right? So people who were dark would see an empath born, or empath little kid, or a very bright light, because you literally glow, okay? Not the darker someone is, the more in need of light someone is. That includes spiritual vampires. They will see you glowing, and the vampires might come and try to get some, but there are tools and techniques to make sure that that doesn't happen. Just like all these Christians asking, is sound healing okay? Is binaural beats okay? This is what I always tell them: please take my class. Not because I want your money, okay? For my entire life, up until 2 or 3 years ago, I gave all of my money away to charity. All of it. Once, let me see, 1, 2, 3 times over that 30 years, I gave away more money than I made. And I was questioned about it. How on earth could you have given away more money than you made? Well, I had worked for free. I had bartered for things, right? So I had bartered instead of getting paid $5,000 an hour. I bartered for something so that company can afford it, just like we give scholarships and grants to companies so they can afford it, or people, and we have a sliding scale. So my very wealthy clients pay the full price that they had me raise 9 times over the last 28 years. And we make sure that everybody gets their health and their healing, right? So the girls have me saying stuff now like, here's the Venmo, if you'd like to support this ministry, because now you've made me have to be digital. And everyone who knows me knows 2 things. I found out that I like my privacy so much Because even at church, when I say don't gossip, gossip is the devil. When I write a book that's full of chibis, which is this Japanese style art of some cute little kids and themed like footy PJs, because I love footy PJs. And they're quite effective. But they say things like, you should have learned better than that at that church chicken dinner. They say things like, gossip is the devil. There's some twins that sit with a tiger roll sushi and a crab sushi, okay? California rolls are supposed to be crab with Maine California vegetables, right? So I made those twins look exactly the same. Their costume is the same, everything. You can only tell the difference in those characters by their sushi. But then one of them has a best friend. She and her best friend are two different kind of bears. A white bear and a brown bear. My work is always reprogramming us to be the highest frequency. But sometimes there is warfare. So I'm not gonna tell you warfare is not real. The church I go to, when I first started attending, and I mean my present churches, right? Let's imagine traveling around the world for 17 years. I could still, dip into a little chapel in Europe because they're open every day, all day. But when I sat on Sunday, I wanted to go to churches where they also focus on compassion and love and gratitude, because those are your superpowers. As a matter of fact, everything bad that happens is just trying to make you not be loved. Every single thing that happens that is not kind and loving and uplifting and abundant is just taking place by someone who is uncomfortable with your frequency because you have changed their bucket of paint from black to gray because your light is present, or from yellow facade, meaning they were faking like they were bright, sunny, like solar plexus chakra, but what they really were was dark brown, icky tar, like cigarette stuff or stuff you pull out of a pipe, like Sherlock Holmes pipe. That's what pipe cleaners are for. They weren't really made for crafts. They were made to go inside of curved pipes, because if you smoke from and I don't mean a marijuana pipe, I mean tobacco pipe from 1700s, 1800s. In the 1800s, people had a lot of money because of the Industrial Revolution, who did not have money before. Even if they were below the poverty line, before the only way to make money was to figure out, do they sell eggs or potatoes, sew stuff, wash stuff, right? But once the Industrial Revolution started, they were making nothing, like $1 a week, but it was still $1 a week they hadn't been able to make before. So every time period, we have the opportunity to be the highest vibration. Every interaction with another person, we have the opportunity to be the highest vibration. And so I read a thread because God made me read it. The hipsters had to kind of get on my case, because I get on their case about don't do too much computer time with strangers telling you what they think of you, because you don't know what it's doing to you energetically. So that was their talk. They asked me to do a suicide prevention talk for them. I reprogram brains. We all know at this point, 500 to 1,000 people in a room, I can reprogram their brains all at once. And they were so suicidal, they sought me out and asked me to develop a system to fix that for them. And so I did. And they taught me on the first day that while I've never paid for marketing or advertising in my entire life, that I am 8 pages on Google. Every link for 8 pages on Google is me, including once when I had to sue someone for giving me a place full of molded blood shrines. Yeah, you see, they hid it behind a curtain, behind a wall, and thought that would be a nice way to pollute my space, literally, okay? So when I say spiritual attacks, I mean heavy duty things that you think are in fairy tales or horror movies. And when I say survivors of SA and abuse by their parents as children, even those stories are so unimaginable that I'm lucky and appreciative of my constant contact and verbiage with my Lord. And him telling me whether they're crazy, they're evil, they're both, they're lying, they're manipulating, right? My clients were telling the truth. They were just saying things that people in the world would prefer that my clients were crazy and lying than for us to be living in a world where that would be okay, right? Where that was taking place. Well, you have to remember, I didn't start today. I didn't start last year. I didn't start 10 years ago. I first started in 1991, getting kids out of gangs. And I would go to ghettos and farm towns and factory towns where kids were being told, and I'm going to use their phrases, they would say their books, their teachers, their schools, and the town was trying to teach them, let me get their vernacular correct, they are nothing, they ain't nothing, and they ain't gonna be nothing. So if you sat around, like you guys, you sitting at church, sitting at work, sitting next to people saying they're in a certain sorority, or because they said, if they were a principal at a school from 1993, 94, up until now, they made the demon-filled bodies that you see running through stores, cutting cables, making stores that have been there our entire lifetimes choose to shut down because it was a demon takeover. The first thing they did was make sure there was blackface. That's a very old term. But what it meant was you walked into a school and you saw that the principal was a black female. Now, me with a genius IQ of 168, now I always joke, I'm not really sure if my IQ is 168 because it might be 186 because I'm dyslexic. Got it? But that's because I make my little jokes. But I also named our forgiveness series, Oops, I Stepped in Poop. But it is also part of that 121,100% Save Lives client. So what the hipsters did when they let me know I was 8 pages on Google, I was distraught. I literally was like, oh, I'm on the internet, right? I take the time to live in the mountains. I take the time to live where I have like 5 neighbors, right? Not because I'm an empath who can't control my abilities, but because I am clairvoyant, clairaudient, empath, telepath with psychometry, claircognizance, and clairsentience. And I'm a little busybody like Alice in Wonderland. And I go around the world all day when I live in the city, helping people on my way to appointments, while I'm in appointments, while I'm on the phone, while I'm in a meeting, and people come up with a running crisis like I experienced where God made me read this thread. So here's what the thread said. A girl who made herself anonymous said she was being attacked by witchcraft. And she was asking a bunch of people who say they do deliverance, tips on how to stop the attacks. And then she said, is listening to frequencies a way to help? And what you saw in the thread was no one asked God. They all had an opinion. None of them had done the research. You could tell they said, oh, it sounds like it's the devil, right? When I've said in many churches where their pastor was a sex demon, and it took them 3 months. He'd been a sex demon for years. His wife complained about it. Oh no, she just was mad because he divorced her. No, he divorced her because he uncloaked in front of her out of his arrogance, thinking that she wouldn't leave or she would feel crazy to tell. But now that we have all this stuff on the news, yesterday, I could not stop laughing in the shower this morning. Because yesterday we were on a bus with a fully manifested demon. And when I say fully manifested, I mean eyes rolling, teeth looking, not looking human, and the whole bus knew, and the whole bus would look bad, but he was way far in the back of the bus in the corner. And so people shrug their shoulders like, I guess that's just how it is now. This is not our first rodeo, humans. Okay? This also used to happen in the Dark Ages. This used to happen in the 1300s. This used to happen in the 1500s. Got it? Looking just like this, uncloaked, running around, just doing stuff where you're walking and people bent over halfway, right? It's like, I literally have an ex who was like, he's seen a lot of drug addicts and he's seen a lot of people doing drugs. But he said this is the first time he ever seen anything just bend. He didn't say someone, he used vernacular that I don't use, but bend them over in half, but they're still doing it. So we have reached a tolerance for low vibration out of dissemination of your personal opinion over science and God, to the point where you made me, after my boyfriend's death, and I promised that man I would retire, to come out of retirement. Then you made me go and be willing, not only visible, but on the internet. You see? So this work has been being done since before I was born. And the way that I do it has been being done since 1991. I would just do for each thing what God said and write curriculum and change it and reprogram their brains. And when I became a neuroscientist, I didn't even want to leave the classroom. But classrooms didn't want your kids to learn. That's why they put those black principals, so that you would think your kid was okay. But those principals were hired to make sure, as they put it, everybody gets an A or a B, so no parents complain. That is a grading policy at a teacher training. All throughout the world, in any district where kids are poor. And poor is different, right? Migrant poor, farm poor, red hair like mine, poor, right? Black ghetto, Asian ghetto, Russian ghetto. See, what people don't realize is the black neighborhood is not the black neighborhood. It's the ghetto. Ghettos have existed since before Merchant of Venice. Otherwise, how could Shakespeare have written about it unless you think Shakespeare invented ghetto? Or perhaps you don't know who Shakespeare is, because that's what happens when everybody gets an A or a B and no one does any work. We get to a world where you don't understand the world. So it's hard to beat the world when you don't understand it, instead of embrace the world and go, not you, but I'll take my blessings. Nice try, no cigar, but I'll take my blessings. So I started teaching classes based on what God told me. So God told me to teach sound healing classes so that people would know that some people doing binaural beats or subliminal, they are a low frequency being. Therefore, it is not the vehicle, which is subconscious programming or subconscious frequency rewriting, right? If we are only energy, we are just energy vibrating. If somebody wants to mess with you, that's what a spell is. It's two things. Somebody telepathically sending you or paying someone else to send you a thought that is harmful to you, that is harmful to your life, that encourages you for self-sabotage, that makes you feel like no one loves you, makes you feel like you should jump off a building, okay? There is a very good scene and a very good quote in a very violent and demonic movie where somebody sees a little shiny angel girl and they tell her to jump off a roof. And she sees them. She sees how they really look. But she sees God too. Just like I've seen my parents used to say, come on, Mia, time to go to church. And I would see Jesus standing right there. He was always kind of like right there, right? He was never like right here. He was always right here. And I'd be holding his hand. Now, probably because that's the hand I chose to hold hands with, because I grew up with such a great mom that she had 2 kids and one on each hand, right? So that's the hand I was used to holding hands with. And I would say, come on, Jesus, time to go to church. And then we'd get in the car and I'd talk to Jesus the whole way to church. And then the whole time I was at church, I would talk to Jesus about what was true and what was not true, what I needed to do, what I needed not to do. And then one time the grown-ups were gossiping about a lady, and she was very beautiful. She was always perfectly dressed. She was really lovely, and she wore red lipstick. And they would talk so badly about her, and she never spoke ill of anyone. She never replied to what they said. Sometimes we would see it hurt her heart a little bit, and then she would praise God and Jesus, and she'd get her joy back and smile. And I said, when I grow up, I'm wearing red lipstick. See, that's not the result they wanted for her. They felt her light. See, now we can use the vocabulary of truth. They felt her light. My students joked for the last 20 years, they call it, my light upset your demons. They're not talking about their light, they literally are talking about me, right? Where something just walks up and manifests right in front of you, you're like, right? Like, not here for you, not on assignment, but you don't want this, right? So I learned the opposite of what they were trying to do, was get what we would now call flying monkeys. More souls focusing their energy towards something they envied. The envy came from negative energy inside of them. So when I say negative energy, I say things like dark chi, because for a long time I was the doctor for some of the highest pastors at my church, because our church was saying God is all there is. And there's no shadow, there's no devil, there's no darkness, that it's all an illusion that we create and project out into the world. So the demons were having so much fun, and the pastors were having nervous breakdowns or doubts of faith. And I was like, no, I'm not going to say that when my clients have gone through all this and God already told me. But what I am going to say is I'm not giving up on us, because I believe love and compassion are some of the biggest weapons. Thanks to my mom and her friends that I call my Amazon aunties, I grew up like fencing and archery. They wouldn't even give me an arm guard. What an arm guard is like right in here. You get struck if you don't have proper form. And so they were like, no, get proper form. The proper form hits the target. You can get lazy having that. When you're fighting a war, you can do it so that you don't pain yourself, right? But when you're learning, they wanted me to have the right skills. So I grew up fencing, archery, horseback riding. Horseback riding came from my family since I was very little. But when my parents divorced, my mom started telling me things about people that braided their hair, your hair, into their hair to try to make you be with them, right? Because someone had done that to her. And I don't think she nor I really understood what that meant. But I do know that we are way past all of that. We are to the point where now, if you sit in one group, you know, because of course our church grew to like, oh yeah, clear the shadow self, right? So they came out with all these movies about the devil's biggest trick was to trick the world that he doesn't exist. So we could all do this, and then we could blame each other for the things that were happening. Racism is demon. It's one of the most effective evils on the planet. Not because, oh, it's so atrocious. No, because what comes inside of you so that you do that, and then the monster you create because they had to survive you and your horrible violence, they become a bigger, stronger demon. So now we got 2. And then how many people did you do it to? So now I got 100. Now we got 1,000. Now we got billions. Human-made. You made that for believing the lie. Because we're all soul. You see, God taught me that when I was 4. But I talk to God. Most people talk to people. So there are lots of churches around the world who stay in prayer on my behalf. And there are churches around the world who pray and make sure I'm still only listening to God, because who spent 17 years in the forest and conferences with witches and wizards and necromancers, voodoo, Ifa, Paulo, my own baby. Hi, you guys. Hi, everybody. Because you're supposed to stay out of judgment. When you stay out of judgment, you get to be all sparkly and glow. And there are people who will come for me and try to rip at my soul because they don't think that frequency belongs in this dimension. They don't think that frequency belongs in this timeline. And they don't want anybody else getting any smart ideas about raising their vibration and changing your timeline, changing your level of joy, changing your love for the world, changing, not judging. When a villain is doing something, not to fight them, but send compassion and love. Well, guess what? I learned two things. One time, God showed me my godfather in the spiritual. And my godfather, now, I learned this as energy medicine, right? Every soul has it. Every soul is energy. We are all energy. I saw my godfather just going, right? Now, there's a woman in Ireland who does videos. And you know what the video is? She goes, ready? Right? Because what she's doing is letting you know you don't have to be in front of somebody for them to knock out of you the negativity that is in you. So what we had was people putting negativity in people. People cooking your food, putting negativity in it. You eating fast food. Do you see people happy and joy-filled and high vibration? So why are you putting that in your body? The chemical, is it positive, negative energy, right? So I didn't want to do duality. I didn't want to do the world of duality. So in Eastern medicine, we have this thing of yin yang. Everybody thinks they know what yin yang is, but yin yang each has millions of things. There are millions of rules and things that are yin, and there are millions of rules and things that are yang. And they are all happening at once. So when you get your act together, the goal is to be what's called the uncarved stone. When you are the uncarved stone, there could be a demon right here going, yeah. In the series about Wakako Yuritani and the stuff she's been doing for the last 6 years, sending black magic, hiring people. See, what people don't understand is they don't always know when spiritually gifted people are present. So they do stuff that you think you only see in a scary movie. And they think nobody sees them for who they are or what they are. So if they're cowardly, they're gonna hire somebody, even if they have spiritual gifts, they're gonna hire somebody else to take the hit. They're literally going to hire someone to send the witchcraft to hit the Christian girl who's on the internet asking people, can she listen to 432 hertz when that research came from the 1970s? So guess what? Maybe not. You see? Because who made it? Who's the frequency that made it? If it's just that frequency and, you know, Joe Bob just puts it on a recording, go ahead and listen. My first TV show was in 2004, 2003, when my first TV show went on air. I was on air for years because God told me the world was changing because people kept experiencing bad news. And the bad news was making the older generation who survived the world wars, who, you know, I admire them so much. I spent 25 years, every day of my life dressed like 1940s. I sew. I've sewn since I was 4, and then I have some of my degrees in making period costumes and fantasy costumes and buildings for movies and theater and television. So I tend to learn a subject, and because I have a genius mind, learn every single thing about it that has ever happened in all of history, throw it up into the air, play it around like a symphony, like I do my gifts, and then pull it back in and say, okay, Lord, is this the thing that helps the world be better now? Because the world's great. The world's great every day. I used to have to tell my clients that because such bad things happened to them, and they had done such horrific things, some of them, that even when I started being a profiler, if you're hurting old people or harming children. Other than that, don't bring it to me. One is because hackers changed the world for the better, because who's gonna hack into the villain's computer and get the information? So I never go after hackers unless they hack into a hospital and old people die while they're trying to figure out what their medicine and their diagnosis was. So I was at a conference for that and sitting with FBI, And he had me watching the woman on stage so I could tell him if the county and state that she worked for that got hit was it an inside job or not, because in their arrogance, which brings levels of demons you couldn't even imagine. It's one of their favorite emotions. See, they eat anger, fear, envy, and doubt. They eat it like it's a buffet, so they like it spreading around the world so they can eat, right? But that arrogance is, it's a delight for them. Like, imagine a whole bunch of demons smoking cigars because you're being arrogant. So the people who did this, who got hit, were on stage teaching a class on how not to get hit, which triggered the FBI to come and sit there and have me assess her because they spent something like, I don't remember the numbers exactly, but it was, they paid $186,000 in ransomware and then lost $142,000 trying to recover the data. So they're like, why did those, or either it was 146 that they paid to recover the data and 182 for the expense. So the difference is just that last number in each of those. But the 86 or the 82 was what they paid to get the information back from the people who took it. But the 146, it turned out they wasted, and no one could figure out, if it wasn't an inside job, how they spend almost as much money as they lost to get it back. And what they did was they paid everybody's per diem. That's why you have to pay attention when people are doing presentations. When I'm doing a presentation, you can relax because I'm reprogramming your subconscious. I'm healing and cleaning your soul according to my initial clients. And my clients of 17 years and 28 years, because the 17 years were coming to me at those conferences. They work in those industries and they'd go, Pia, I know you're a profiler, but it says on the internet you're a life coach. I got $50 million, I'm unhappy, can you help me? Pia, I got $17 million, I'm unhappy, can you help me? Right? Because what did I tell the world? I'm a joy coach. Right? And then people started trying to act like the survivors were broken forever. No, they're fixed, 100%. Because they're clear of all that stuff. They weren't broken in the first place. They were infiltrated. And so they get fixed because you're gone bye-bye. And all your ways in are gone bye-bye. See? So my work looks different. So I'm not gonna be up there going, used to do drugs and I was a rocker and I was worshiping, I made it. No, I've always belonged to God, always belonged to Jesus. Got it? Always had my gifts. My parents didn't tell me till I was 10 that everybody else on the planet wasn't just like me. So that's the way I thought. Until I was 10, I thought everybody saw and did and heard just like I did. And then they didn't teach me racism existed. And then now I have to say the joke that God told me so that I could get that out of me. When people kept trying to teach me racism, meaning they kept doing crazy racist stuff to me and then bragging about their ability to do it, not realizing I don't have that in my subconscious program. It's not part of my vibration. It's not part of my ecosystem. It's not part of the software or hardware running in this being. It is not there. So when they do it, I just see them as demons. Now, I don't play. If you gossiping, I will say you are a demon. But they kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it. I said, Lord, what is with these people? And then they always said it was race. So finally I was like, okay, so I learned historically what racism was and how it went, but I learned that it was just a hateful behavior where you harmed people and demons came inside of you since the 1200s. And all the people looked alike. In the 1300s, all the people looked alike. In the 1400s, all the people looked alike. In the 1500s, all the people still looked alike, but the behavior was the same because it was just all demons. And so I say, especially after my house burned down in the wildfires, it's like God did his job. Because look, I'm standing here and it burned our whole neighborhood to white ashes. So, you know, it wasn't personal. It wasn't like my house burned in the middle of a city and everything else around it. No, it wasn't like a hell realm kind of thing. It was a national disaster in a place that is so hateful and low vibrational. I wouldn't blame God for setting it on fire, right? Fire of heaven. See, reprogramming joke. So how do you get that kind of stuff out? I teach that. So now my workshops will be online. My workshops have to be shared with everyone because so many things are trying to make people lose their hope in the world. And I have had to deal with heavy hitters deep in witchcraft, thinking they're the only witch on the planet, as opposed to, I've been 80,000 magical people of 70 different kind of magic doctor for 28 years. So not my first rodeo. And I don't judge and I don't send hate, and I'm gonna tell you this last thing, right? Or we'll say second or third from the last thing. Sound healing works because it knocks lower frequencies out of your vibrational space. So think of a bucket of paint. You are that bucket of paint. You have a color, you have a frequency. Nothing else is supposed to be in it but you and God. But you have free will. So you can let anger, fear, envy, doubt, hatred, racism, sexism, homophobia, judgment. Did I say gossip? Because that's the sneaky one. You always act like you're just talking. Read Freud or Nietzsche, do something. Color, paint, teach a baby how to read. There's other things you can do than gossip because it's still the devil and it lets him inside. And the devil's playing chess with God. Just kidding, I just made that joke, okay? I mean, I made that joke a lot, but really it's because he does not have to, you know, go in and do the hits himself. He delegated it, and you guys picked the ball up with your judgment. So now we have this thread with this young woman, and she's been hit with witchcraft, and she's trying to figure out, can she listen to the frequency and it helps? The answer is yes, the frequency helps. The answer is the frequency will harm you and pollute you and possess you if the person who wrote the frequency put other stuff in there to get into your space. So you need to do what? What's the one thing I teach all my clients and do on their behalf? Connect them to God. You see? One time the church elders, because so many people gossip, oh, Mia's doing this and Mia's, they're like, Mia's not doing that. That's not Mia. Mia would never do that. They're like, how come she didn't tell you? It's like, because Mia's not like that. Mia has this old Spain etiquette. And so for her, if you would dare to think she didn't have honor, she wouldn't consider you a friend because you don't know her, because she has sacrificed and struggled so much, as opposed to go down in the mud and the muck. Now I'll go straight into hell to get you out. And I've done that. And I'll go in hell and go, hi, you guys, not for you, not for you, not for you. God told me to get this one. And, you know, without a battle, right? But what I won't do is let you make me jump into the mud so I can strangle you, hit you, or get you back for something you did. Because I see that the reason you did it was for me to change my sparkly vibration to come get you. And what I do know is not just the book slapping demons, but watching actual demons slap other people and watching demons slap other demons, that you're going to get that slap, but you're not going to get my soul. You're not going to get my faith. You're not going to get my vibe. You're not going to get my light. I'm not even changing for a millisecond. First book said, I'm not letting go of God's hand so I can come slap you. I'm not letting go of God's hand so I can cry. I don't need to cry. You know why? Because I know God's running it. And just the way old Spain, the first Mexicans like us, I'm Black, Mexican, Cherokee, and Irish. Both of my parents are mixed race people. My parents double my blood in 2 races, okay? And I grew up going to Native American Center my whole life because that was important to my parents, that I know how to be a Native woman. That made me a different Baptist because as a Black woman, my parents taught me one drop of black makes you Black, and being Black is the best thing in the world. Because even though I didn't know racism existed, they did. I was encountering racism and calling it demons. So now I always joke and say, turns out I was right. You see, because it is demons. But it's all these people that think they have permissions to do whatever they want to you. Someone hit my off-road vehicle with me parked in it. I had just gotten in from a meeting that I wanted a tea shop, and they said I couldn't have it because Black people can't rent there. And I had longer burger baskets and gung fu tea sets. Gung fu tea sets are very expensive, ancient tea sets, or tea sets made so that you can sit with someone like in a movie. And I know the whole thing, and by the end, your whole problem is solved because you had tea with me. And we started that product, Tea with Mia. God told me to just have my regular like Victorian style tea parties because he knew with my vibe, they would be getting that result at, snacks and beautiful and flowers everywhere. But I needed to prove to the elders, I know the traditional way and how it looks, and when you pour the tea out, what is happening energetically, right? But they didn't care because they say they don't rent to Black people. But one, like old ugly snaggletooth one, said I can't date him. So it was just a setup for him to try to date him, which of course, no. So she hit me because I was sad at the racism I experienced from the old dragon. And don't get me wrong, I have loved a very young, beautiful dragon, even though he was 50 when we met and 62 when he died. So that's no judgment of dragons either. But I decided to go into prayer and write a new book as a result of that. So I was sitting there writing. And then I left where I was to drive so I could go into the mountains because it was raining. And so I was trying to wait out the rain as my glasses burned in the wildfires. And I still haven't gotten them replaced yet. And I pulled over because I saw a hospital. And I went to the hospital, but of course, once again, in a city with so many permissions for hatred, even to people that look like you, because it's demons, not race, remember? The 1200, 1300, 1500, remember? So never think racism doesn't exist because somebody looks like you. It's evil. It's evil inside of them, then they're gonna do it, right? So he wouldn't let me in the door even though it was storming and raining. He kept saying I had to go to another door, even though it's emergency, it's lit up and it says this is the entrance. So I get back in my car and I don't want the teapots that I feel are beautiful and historical and should be cultivated and cared for. And my Longaberger baskets, so I had to fix them inside my off-road vehicle. And I got hit while I was fixing them and just gotten in my car. But I didn't just get hit because something was wrong with the human. She never hit the brakes. That's impossible for a brain. I've specialized in the brain since 2000. Unless you count reprogramming and teaching brains since 1991. I specialize in the brain, the physiological, right? The anatomical, the biological. I'll explain those 8 parts of the brain, the historical, energetic. I'll explain the 8 brain system as a part of this series of we are vibration, we are frequency, and every one of these other actions is to affect that. So you can take other actions to keep it high. So you don't poo-poo sound healing, but you don't go when it's a whole bunch of sound healers and they're on the stage and they seem to move like this. You want to ask yourself, vibrationally, is that a sex demon? Vibrationally, are they studying Tantra and then misusing Tantra to come into your dreams and do SA? You have to be able to have a system that is 100% proof, and that is to connect to God and ask God and be with Jesus every moment of every day, because it doesn't matter how many evil things, evil people are present. When Jesus is present, they flee. And it doesn't matter if you are tired of Christians and how crazy they've been acting for a good 20 years. Demons are afraid of the blood of Jesus. Therefore, use it. Don't just cover yourself in the blood of Jesus like an ice cream cone. Pull it through you like the Star Trek transporter. Like, act like it's a sheet, like, a rectangle, and pull it down through you like a strainer till it get all that out of you. But I teach my students stuff God teaches me. But they're there, and I know that no matter what you're doing, you could turn into a horn bull and run down the center aisle right now. And the first thing I'll do is tsunami, not energy, not qigong, blood of Jesus. To you, through you, all over you. And then I'm gonna glow and shine with love. Then I'm gonna send you love. Then I'm gonna send you light, because God showed me my godfather blasting a man that I was dating, who later turned out to be one of the most terrible demons and humans on the planet. And my godfather saw it, and he knows I'm so much like Alice on adventures, right? Been to Paris 46 times, sat on the pyramids. I wasn't trying to be like Alice. Alice is just my personality. I'm Mia. If you put me in any fairy tale, when I cosplay anything, I'm still me. I'm just some archetype. But I'll never be like, oh, I'm Buffy and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'll be like, I'm Mia in Buffy the Vampire Slayer theme party. And I will pick how I would look in that world, because I am so with God. I'm not changing into something else. God made me Mia, right? God made me Mia. And, sometimes if you come to a conference or as we're working on this series, your frequency has changed. Your life's already changed. Your life has already been changing since the moment I started talking. Your life was changing from the moment God told me to do this series. Because what you will learn is this is not what I usually do. I cook, I sew, I bake, I clean. And you sat in church talking about you pray and slay while your pastors were sex demons and your children were killing each other. I don't know what you thought you were slaying, but it definitely wasn't the demons that were inside of them. And the demons know I'm not out to get demons. It's nothing I'm gonna go. Love and peace, joy, mercy. That's my goal. Higher vibration, better world. But I do know if my Lord tells me that he gave that body to a soul that's not in it, because you're in it. And then my Lord tells me to get you out of it. And then my Lord tells me what to do. It's not gonna be all this hooping and hollering and, you buying a Honda. You know how the people, oh, I'm buying a Honda, right? People speaking in tongues is real, and it makes evil leave because it is a vibrational language, unadulterated, meaning think of adulterated as the opposite of the innocence of a child. Unchanged by interacting in the world is what unadulterated means. So speaking in tongues is different than light language. But if I speak in what people would call tongues and some people call light language or whatever, I'm just saying what God is pushing through me to the environment to say, you will not change, right? You will not change. You will vibrate higher. You will not change based on what is happening. You will not change because there's fear in this room. You will not change because there's violence. You will not change. You will go higher. You will not go lower. Got it? So change is probably not the best word for me to use there, because yeah, you will change, but you're gonna change higher. It's gonna be even better than when you came, right? So when you teach in the hood, you have to teach your students, because they also used to having to watch their own back thanks to all your racism and your redlining and all the demons that use you to create them into that, instead of what you envied so much, which were beautiful, creative creatures, which is what they still are. They just got you. Because now you got them creating better ways to rob you, better ways to harm each other, better ways to get what the other criminal got from you. But they still are beautiful, creative beings. Now you just got stuff from other dimensions, other realms, right? So I said I'll tell you the last joke. Stop sending demons to hell. It's highly populated. Why are you sending them on a timeout? Because you know they're just gonna go and get more angry and figure out how to come back and get more revenge or on you. Don't send demons to hell. Send them to Jesus. Send them to heaven. God owns every soul. God made everything. So this is why my audiences loved coming for these 17 years while you were making up a fake life for me and I was changing the world and making it a better place. Got it? Because the devil had you, but he didn't have me. Now, I may have dated him once or twice, but not on purpose. Not on purpose. But that also was trying to change my frequency. I only let my frequency go higher. I only stick with God. So stop sending demons to hell. Send them to Jesus. Because Jesus transmutes. Jesus is love. Jesus is love. And he can handle it. And he can handle anything. And he can help them. And he can change them. Stop populating hell. It was built for the devil. All the rest of those souls aren't even supposed to be down there. You did that, so stop it. I'm lucky I don't come from a family where women tell children things like, stop it, right? They don't like muster up anger and say, stop it. That's how I knew something was up with my mom when one time her face filled with anger and she said something. And then I saw her kind of like cry with a tear as if her soul was sad that she couldn't control that because she knew that wasn't her. And then her friends came and told me who it was and when they thought it started happening. But her friends were my Amazon aunties who were around long before my mom met the person who did that. And then, you know, one of her brothers is a complete monster, including pedophile and everything. So drug dealers sell to their family because that's why you made them drug dealers in the first place. Ghettos used to be beautiful. They were just redlined. But people were driving their maids home and saw it and they were so envious. How dare my maid have a beautiful house? How dare my maid have a car, a Cadillac, not a little hoopty with missing doors? How dare my maid have Mercedes and a 3-story house and a happy life, and even singing a song happier than me while she's cleaning my toilet, right? So the evil inside you attacked and turned them into killers. And now, like the Pied Piper, you can't control the snakes you brought in. You made the rats, and they became stronger predators. So you turned them into snakes. You used a lot of stuff, music, fashion, parties, even metals meant to protect them, like gold. But now you got bigger snakes. There's nobody to call but Jesus. And you got churches acting fool for 20 years, so now people don't know if that works, but I'm telling you, Jesus works. It's the key. Love is the key. Jesus is the key. The blood of Jesus is a weapon. Light is a weapon. When I say weapon, I mean the thing that removes it, the thing that cuts the witchcraft, the things that cut the ties, the things that remove it. And stop running around talking about soul ties because you're not supposed to pull them out. Because it just tells the person who made it that you know they're there, so they come back harder. Okay? So it goes from looking like a little energetic thread that you would sew with to stronger like dental floss, to cording, like a cord you pull your drapes, to tug-of-war rope, to a ship's anchor. I've seen them. Because you running around pretending like you can become a shaman on the weekend, and there is a girl who will certify you and make you a shaman for $75 over the weekend. As someone with 2 native registered tribal nations of blood. You're not a shaman unless you can go where they are and get them out of there and negotiate with everything in there. And for that, you need Jesus. Okay? So, sound healing works because your energy hurts because most of the people figured out you let them play in their space, and then you let them play in your space. This series is going to teach you how to make sure you handle your business without anyone playing in your space ever again. My space belonged to me and Jesus. Who does yours belong to? Who does yours belong to? Thank you. Oh, and I'm supposed to say, if you want to sow into this ministry, my social media are all reprogramming. So one is Golden Arigatu, literally the power of gratitude. GOLDENARIGATO. And then the other one is called Oops, I Stepped in Poop. That has to do with forgiveness. We'll do that talk so you understand that you just treat it like you stepped in poop. And you wash those shoes off, but sometimes it's still there, so you gotta let it go. Sometimes you gotta just leave the whole shoes. But at least you know not to stand around talking about the fact that you stepped in some poop 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I used to call that, can you top this? And then, so now they've had me sign up for Cash App and Venmo. There's a lot of nonprofits with employees making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the problem they say they're fixing has been tripling per quarter. So we no longer just give all of our money to charities. We now make sure people are getting the help and the money that they need. And I learned, don't spend your whole life giving all your money away. But I hope you learn, don't spend a second of your life giving your soul away, giving your vibration away, giving your space away, no matter what somebody does. But you'll learn that when we talk about people that are evil on purpose. That's what we'll talk about next. So thank you. If you have questions, go to the social medias and comment and write, and I'll get back to you. And you can use email Mia's Alchemy or go to soulswealth.com.